In the quiet valley of Oakhaven, where the river murmured secrets to the moss-covered stones and the ancient trees bowed low, as if always listening, lived a girl named Alara. Her home was a cottage woven from the golden-brown branches of the willow oak, its roof thatched with shimmering, sun-dried reeds that caught the morning light like scattered jewels. Inside, it smelled of dried lavender, warm bread, and the soft, earthy scent of old books. Alara was a girl made for quiet wonders. Her hair was the color of fallen leaves kissed by autumn frost, and her eyes held the deep, tranquil blue of a hidden forest pool. She wasn't one for boisterous games or loud chatter. Instead, she found her joy in the rustle of leaves, the intricate patterns of frost on a window pane, and the way the moonlight painted the world in shades of silver and indigo. She had an extraordinary way of noticing things others often missed: the faint, glowing trails left by night beetles, the precise moment a dewdrop trembled before falling from a spider's silk, the barely audible hum of a sleeping flower. Her constant companion was Fimble, a creature no bigger than her thumb, made of living moss and tiny, glowing fungi. Fimble was a sprite of the Whisperwood, a forest that bordered Oakhaven and stretched far, far beyond, its trees so old they seemed to touch the sky and whisper to the stars. Fimble had bright, inquisitive eyes that shimmered like dewdrops, and a mischievous spirit that often led Alara on delightful small adventures, chasing errant sunbeams, discovering forgotten berries, or finding the perfect smooth skipping stone for the river. He communicated in a series of tiny chirps, clicks, and the gentle, almost imperceptible swaying of his mossy body, which Alara understood perfectly. Alara lived with her Nana Maeve, a woman whose wrinkles were like maps of ancient smiles and whose hands, though gnarled with age, could coax any plant to bloom and any troubled heart to peace. Nana Maeve had hair like spun moonlight, and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of every generation. She rarely spoke of magic, yet her presence was a comforting, magical hum that filled their cottage. She knew the names of every star, every herb, and every animal track, and her stories were like woven tapestries, rich with the colors of the world and the whispers of forgotten times. One evening, as the twilight deepened and the first stars pricked the indigo canvas of the sky, Alara sat by the open window, watching the fireflies dance in the garden. Fimble was perched on her shoulder, his tiny luminescent spots glowing softly, mirroring the distant fireflies. A peculiar sensation began to stir within her. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears, not exactly, but more a feeling, a resonance in the air, like the distant, harmonious thrum of a plucked string that vibrated deep within her bones. It was soft, almost imperceptible, a gentle caress against her awareness. She frowned, tilting her head. "Fimble," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Do you feel that?" Fimble twitched, his antennae quivering. He let out a series of rapid, high-pitched clicks, his glow brightening and dimming with his excitement. He seemed to feel it too, or perhaps he was reacting to Alara's own subtle shift in perception. "It's like a song," Alara mused, closing her eyes, "but not sung aloud, more like a remembering." The feeling deepened over the next few days. It was subtle at first, a fleeting impression, like the memory of a dream just upon waking. But slowly it grew clearer, weaving itself into the fabric of her daily life. When she helped Nana Maeve tend the moon-petal flowers, she felt it in the delicate unfurling of their petals. When she walked by the river, she felt it in the rhythmic rush of the water over the stones. When she watched the wind stir the leaves of the Whisperwood, it was there, a soft, profound murmur that seemed to whisper through the very air itself. Her nights, too, began to change. Her dreams became vivid, shimmering tapestries woven with threads of silver and starlight. She dreamt of ancient trees with roots that delved into the heart of the world, of rivers that flowed with liquid starlight, and of skies filled with constellations she had never seen. And in these dreams, the soft, remembering song grew louder, clearer, like a chorus of unseen voices humming in perfect harmony. It was never distinct words, but an intricate melody of feeling, of immense age, of quiet power. It felt like the world itself was breathing. One morning, she woke with the lingering echo of a particularly vivid dream. In it, she had been standing in a glade, bathed in an ethereal, silver light, and the air had been thick with the whispers. Not the whispers of people, but of something far grander, far older. She had felt an overwhelming sense of peace, a profound belonging, as if she had finally found a forgotten piece of herself. Finbal was dancing on her pillow, his glow spots flashing erratically, almost urgently. Elara sat up, her heart thrumming with a quiet excitement. "Finbal," she said, her voice soft with wonder. "The whispers. They were so close last night." Finbal chirped and pointed a tiny mossy finger towards the window, towards the distant dark line of the whisperwood. It was as if he understood, as if he knew where the whispers truly came from. "At breakfast Nana Maeve stirring a pot of steaming berry porridge," observed Elara with knowing eyes. "You seem particularly bright this morning, little leaf. Did the dream weavers visit you?" Elara hesitated, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "Yes, Nana, they did, but it was more than just dreams. I keep hearing, or feeling, something. A quiet sound, a whisper that isn't really a sound at all. It's like the world is talking, but only I can hear it." She looked up, her blue eyes earnest. "Do you know what I mean?" Nana Maeve smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that seemed to crinkle the corners of her eyes like worn parchment. She poured a generous bowl of porridge for Elara, and placed it before her. "Ah, the Whis," she said softly, as if speaking of an old, dear friend. "I thought it wouldn't be long before you began to notice its song." Elara's spoon clattered against the bowl. "The Whis? What is it, Nana? Is that what it's called?" "Some call it that," Nana Maeve replied, her voice a soothing balm. "Others call it the heart song of the world, or the breath of the ancients. It is the echo of all that has been, all that is, and all that might yet be, the quiet wisdom of the earth, the soft hum of forgotten stories, the very thread that weaves magic into the fabric of our existence." She paused, her gaze distant, as if listening to a faraway melody. Most people, in their hurry and their bustle, never hear it. Their ears are too full of their own thoughts, their minds too cluttered. But some, like you, little leaf, are born with a finer tuning, a quieter spirit, and a heart open enough to listen. Elara felt a thrill of recognition, a sense of destiny stirring within her. "So it's real? It's not just in my head?" "As real as the river that flows and the sun that shines," Nana Maeve affirmed. "And perhaps in some ways even more so, for the river can be dammed, and the sun can be clouded, but the Whis endures always." She reached out and gently took Elara's hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "It lives deepest in the old places, little leaf. In the heart of the whisperwood, where the roots of the world run deepest and the memory of time is strongest." Finbal, who had been perched silently on Elara's shoulder, suddenly chirped excitedly, his glow intensifying. He gestured again towards the whisperwood, as if urging Elara to go. Nana Maeve chuckled softly. "Even Finbal feels its pull. He is a child of the wood after all." She reached into a small carved wooden box on the shelf above the hearth, and pulled out a smooth, iridescent river stone, no bigger than Elara's thumb. It shimmered with faint, swirling colors, like captured starlight. "This stone was found in the Whispering Falls, deep within the wood. It has been polished by ages of flowing water and carries a whisper of the Whis within it. Wear it, little leaf. It will help you listen, and it will guide you gently when the time is right." Elara took the stone. It was cool and smooth against her palm, and as she held it, she felt a faint, comforting thrum, a miniature echo of the Whis she had been sensing. She threaded it onto a leather cord Nana Maeve provided, and placed it around her neck. It felt like a secret key, a hidden compass. Over the next few days, the Whis grew stronger, more insistent. The stone around her neck pulsed with a soft internal warmth, guiding her gaze towards the whisperwood whenever she felt lost or uncertain. Finbal, now practically buzzing with anticipation, became her little scout, darting ahead, pointing with his mossy fingers and chirping his encouragement. One afternoon, when the sun was high and the world felt hushed and golden, Elara knew it was time. She packed a small satchel with a flask of water, a piece of Nana Maeve's apple cake, and a tiny woven basket for Finbal, should he tire. With the river stone warm against her chest and Finbal perched on her shoulder, his glow spots bright with excitement, she set off towards the ancient, inviting darkness of the whisperwood. The path into the whisperwood was not one marked by human hands. It was a winding trail of deer tracks, the faint impression of fallen leaves, and the subtle currents of magic that only Elara seemed to perceive. The air grew cooler and sweeter beneath the towering canopy of the old trees. Their branches, thick and gnarled with centuries of growth, intertwined overhead, creating a mosaic of shifting light and shadow on the forest floor. Sunlight filtered through the leaves in dappled patches, illuminating ferns that unfurled like ancient scrolls, and patches of moss that glowed with an inner, emerald light. The Whis here was no longer a faint echo. It was a gentle symphony, a soft, pervasive hum that vibrated through the very air, through the roots beneath her feet, and through the leaves that rustled above her head. It felt like the forest itself was breathing, a deep, slow, contented breath. The river stone around her neck grew warmer, its colors swirling more vibrantly, pulling her deeper into the wood. Fimble was in his element. He darted from tree to tree, occasionally stopping to sniff a particularly interesting patch of glowing fungi, or to chatter excitedly at a sleepy dormouse peeking from a hollow. He seemed to know exactly where they were going, his tiny compass sense attuned to the heart of the wood. Elara walked for what felt like hours, deeper and deeper, until the sounds of Oakhaven faded entirely, replaced by the symphony of the forest. Birds sang melodies she had never heard before, their notes intricate and clear. The wind sighed through the leaves, with a voice that seemed to tell stories of old. Even the rustle of her own footsteps on the leaf-strewn path seemed to blend into the overall harmony. She noticed things. Trees with bark like ancient, wrinkled faces, their limbs reaching out as if in a perpetual embrace. Flowers that pulsed with a soft, internal light, their petals unfolding in slow, deliberate movements. Streams that flowed with water so clear, it seemed to be woven from pure light. The magic of the Whis permeated everything, making the ordinary extraordinary. Finally, Fimble stopped at the edge of a small clearing. He chirped a triumphant series of clicks and pointed with both tiny, mossy hands. Elara stepped into the clearing and gasped. This was no ordinary glade. The ground was carpeted with luminous moss that glowed with a soft, otherworldly light, casting an ethereal green sheen over everything. In the center stood a single, enormous tree, unlike any she had ever seen. Its trunk was wider than their cottage, its bark a deep, shimmering silver, and its leaves, instead of green, were a breathtaking mosaic of iridescent blues, purples, and greens, like the inner lining of a seashell. They pulsed with a gentle light, each leaf a tiny, living star. From the very heart of this magnificent tree, the Whis poured forth, no longer a faint hum, but a profound, resonant melody that filled the air. It wasn't loud, but it was all-encompassing, a feeling of pure, ancient knowledge and boundless wonder. It was like standing within the deepest dream, where the fabric of reality was thin, and the world's truest self was revealed. Elara felt tears welling in her eyes, tears of awe and recognition. The river stone around her neck pulsed with such warmth that it felt like a tiny heart beating against her own. She sank to her knees on the glowing moss, utterly captivated. Fimble, for once, was silent, sitting on her shoulder, his glow spots shining steadily, reflecting the incredible light of the tree. She closed her eyes, letting the Whis wash over her. It was a symphony of creation, of growth, of memory. She felt the pulse of the earth, the slow dance of the stars, the gentle unfurling of every living thing. She heard the faint echo of the first raindrop, the first sunrise, the first whisper of life itself. It was a feeling of profound connection, of being part of something vast and beautiful beyond imagining. When she opened her eyes again, the world seemed sharper, more vibrant, more alive than ever before. The silver tree pulsed with a gentle rhythm, and from its enormous trunk, faint, shimmering motes of light drifted into the air, like tiny, living sparks of the Whis itself. They danced around her, swirling and coalescing, before slowly fading away, leaving behind a lingering scent of sweet earth and starlight. Elara knew with a certainty that settled deep in her soul that she had found something truly extraordinary. This was just the beginning. The Whis had called to her, and she had answered. But what it truly was, what secrets it held, and what her connection to it truly meant, remained a beautiful, unfolding mystery. She felt a profound sense of peace, and an unshakable curiosity. The Whisperwood had opened its heart to her, and she knew she would return, again and again, to listen to the ancient, profound song of the Whis. The Whisperwood had opened its heart to her, and she knew she would return, again and again, to listen to the ancient, profound song of the Whis. Lyra didn't quite remember walking home. The path through the familiar outskirts of the wood, the winding lane leading to her small cottage, all seemed to blur into a single shimmering memory. She felt as if she floated, her feet barely touching the dew-kissed grass. The first tendrils of dawn, pink and gold, painted the sky, but to Lyra, the light seemed to emanate from within her, a soft, ethereal glow that hummed in her veins. Her cottage, usually a haven of quiet comfort, now felt different. The rough-hewn timbers, the thatch roof, the well-worn flagstones of her porch, they were the same, yet she saw them with new eyes. Every leaf on the honeysuckle vine clinging to her wall seemed to pulse with a hidden vitality. The air itself tasted cleaner, sharper, imbued with a delicate spice she hadn't noticed before. Inside, her cat, Luna, a sleek shadow of obsidian fur, stretched languidly on the hearthrug, her emerald eyes blinking open as Lyra entered. Luna let out a soft, questioning trill, then rubbed against Lyra's ankles, a purr rumbling in her chest. But this time, Lyra felt something more than just the brush of fur. She felt Luna's contented warmth, the gentle rhythm of her heart, a tiny, intricate symphony of life that had always been there, but which she had never truly perceived until now. Lyra sank onto her favorite armchair by the window, watching the sunrise spill over the rolling hills beyond her garden. The world outside was waking, but Lyra felt as though she had just truly awoken herself. The memory of the Whis was not a fading dream, but a vibrant, living presence within her. Its song, that deep, resonant hum, lingered in the very marrow of her bones, a gentle anchor in the sea of her thoughts. She spent the day in a haze of quiet wonder. Tasks that usually filled her hours, tending her small herb garden, mending a tear in her favorite shawl, preparing a simple meal, were now imbued with a strange, almost meditative quality. When she watered her thyme, she felt the cool dampness soak into the earth, felt the plant's tiny roots drink it in, a silent, vital exchange. When she stirred her soup, she saw the currents swirl, imagined the flavors mingling, a dance of elements. Even the sunlight streaming through her window seemed to carry more weight, more warmth, each dust mote dancing in its golden shafts like miniature, ephemeral stars. But beneath this newfound appreciation for the mundane, there was a persistent, gentle ache, a longing for the whisperwood. The forest called to her, not with an urgent shout, but with a persistent, soft beckoning. It was the whisper of a secret shared, a promise made, an unfinished melody. She found herself staring out at the distant, verdant canopy, her mind tracing the paths she had taken, wondering what other wonders lay hidden within its ancient embrace. Sleep came easily that night, but it was not the deep, dreamless slumber of exhaustion. Instead, her dreams were vivid tapestries of emerald and sapphire, woven with threads of silver light. She dreamt of towering trees with leaves like polished jade, of glowing flowers that hummed with quiet energy, of streams that sang ancient lullabies. And always, at the heart of it all, was the omnipresent profound song of the Whis, clearer and more intricate than ever before. It wasn't just a sound, it was a feeling, a knowing, a deep communion that transcended words. The days that followed were a gentle test of her resolve. Lyra tried to resume her routines, but the world felt thinner, less vibrant without the immediate presence of the Whis. The quiet hum beneath her thoughts intensified, growing into a gentle tug, a persistent invitation. She found herself humming melodies she'd never heard before, her fingers tracing patterns on her tabletop that mimicked the intricate veins of leaves. Her senses, once merely functional, were now exquisitely tuned. She could hear the rustle of a beetle in the grass from yards away, smell the faint, sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine before sunset, feel the subtle shift in the wind before a change in weather. Luna, too, seemed to notice a change in Lyra. The cat would often sit on Lyra's lap, purring deeply, her green eyes fixed on Lyra's face with an unusually intelligent gaze, as if she, too, understood the profound shift that had occurred. Sometimes, Luna would nudge Lyra's hand with her head, then flick her tail towards the window, towards the distant, dark line of the whisperwood, as if urging her to go. Finally, Lyra could resist no longer. The pull was too strong, too beautiful to ignore. One crisp morning, as the sun began to warm the earth, she prepared for her return. This time, she didn't just wander. She felt a quiet sense of purpose. She packed a small satchel with a flask of fresh water, a few dried berries, and a small leather-bound sketchbook with a charcoal pencil. She wanted to capture, even just a little, the beauty she knew she would find. As she approached the edge of the whisperwood, A tangible shift in the air greeted her. It was cooler, fresher, imbued with the scent of damp earth, pine needles, and something else, something ethereal and sweet, like starlight blooming. The trees, which had once felt like an intimidating wall, now seemed to part for her, their branches rustling a gentle welcome. The path she had taken before was no longer a vague memory. It was vibrant in her mind, a clear ribbon through the emerald depths. With each step deeper into the forest, the everyday world receded. The sounds of distant farm animals, the faint scent of wood smoke from her village, all faded, replaced by the symphony of the wood, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of unseen birds, the murmur of a hidden stream. But beneath it all, stronger now, was the profound pulsing song of the Whis. It was a melody that resonated not just in her ears, but in her very core, guiding her forward. This time, the forest revealed new wonders. Patches of moss on ancient stones glowed with a soft inner light, illuminating intricate patterns of fern fronds. Delicate bell-shaped flowers, translucent as spun glass, chimed softly in the gentle breeze, their petals shimmering with iridescent colors she'd never seen before. Dragonflies with wings like stained glass hovered over pools of still water, their bodies trailing faint trails of stardust. Lyra paused often, not just to sketch, but to simply obey, to absorb the sheer, overwhelming beauty of it all. She felt as though the forest itself was breathing around her, a vast, living entity. She noticed the trees themselves were different. Some had bark that swirled with patterns like ancient script. Others had leaves that changed color with her gaze, shifting from emerald to sapphire to amethyst. She reached out to touch a particularly gnarled oak, its trunk wider than her cottage, and felt a profound sense of age, of quiet wisdom emanating from it. It was as if the tree, like the Whis, held memories, vast and deep. The air grew thicker with magic as she neared the clearing. The light here was softer, filtered through a canopy of leaves that seemed to glow from within. And then, she saw it. The clearing was indeed the same, yet profoundly different. The ancient stones were still there, forming their silent circle, but in the very center, where she had felt the heart of the Whis before, something new had emerged. It was not a physical object, not a creature she could name, but rather a phenomenon of pure, concentrated light and sound. A column of shimmering, opalescent mist rose from the earth, swirling gently, imbued with every color of the dawn and dusk. Within its ethereal form, tiny motes of golden light danced and pulsed, like fireflies caught in a perpetual silent ballet. And from this column the song of the Whis emanated, not just as a hum, but as a complex, multi-layered melody. It was a choir of ancient voices, a symphony of natural sounds, the rush of wind through mountains, the gentle lapping of waves on a distant shore, the crackle of starlight, the slow, patient growth of a seed into a tree. Lyra approached reverently, her heart pounding with a mixture of awe and profound recognition. This was it. This was the Whis, revealing itself more fully. As she stepped into the clearing, the shimmering column of light seemed to ripple, to acknowledge her presence. The song intensified, swelling around her, enveloping her in its magnificent embrace. This time it wasn't just an emotion or a vague sense of knowing. Images began to form in her mind, not like fleeting dreams, but with a vivid clarity that felt more real than reality itself. She saw flashes of the world as it once was, verdant landscapes untouched by human hands, colossal beasts roaming vast plains, skies alight with aurorae of impossible colors. She saw the slow, patient birth of mountains, the carving of valleys by ancient rivers, the dance of seasons spanning millennia. It was the memory of the earth itself, distilled and presented to her. Then the images shifted. She saw tiny, intricate patterns of energy, like roots spreading beneath the surface of the world, connecting everything. She understood, with a sudden startling clarity, that the Whis was not merely a thing in the forest. It was a nexus, a vast, ancient, collective consciousness that drew its essence from all life, from all memory, from all potential. It was the living heart of the Whisperwood, yes, but also a vital conduit to the very spirit of the planet. It was the quiet guardian of balance, the silent weaver of the unseen threads that held existence together. The Whis communicated not with words but with pure knowing, with profound, resonant feelings that settled deep within her soul. It told her, without speaking, of its purpose: to listen, to remember, to nurture, to maintain the delicate equilibrium of life. It was the earth's quiet breath, its ancient dream. And then, the focus shifted to Ahar. Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest, a profound sense of being seen, truly seen, for the first time. The Whis conveyed that she was not just an ordinary person who stumbled upon its secret. She was a listener, one of a rare few in all the ages who possessed the particular sensitivity, the open heart, and the quiet courage to truly hear its song and connect with its essence. Her connection wasn't just passive reception, it was an active participation. The Whis needed listeners. It needed those who could carry its song, even faintly, into the wider world, those who could resonate with its purpose and, perhaps even aid it. The images in her mind became more personal. She saw glimpses of herself, her hands tending a wilting flower, and the flower blooming with renewed vigor, her presence calming a startled deer in the woods, a faint shimmer of light around her fingers as she touched a patch of barren earth, and tiny green shoots emerging. It wasn't magic in the dramatic, spell-casting sense, but a subtle, innate resonance with life itself. Her connection to the Whis amplified her natural empathy, her innate ability to nurture. She was a conduit, a gentle anchor through which the Whis could touch the world beyond its immediate domain, influencing the subtle energies that governed growth and vitality. A question formed in Lyra's mind, a silent inquiry about why now, why her? The Whis responded with an image of a vast, intricate tapestry, vibrant and whole, but with faint, almost imperceptible threads beginning to fray at its edges. It was a subtle disturbance, a quiet disharmony beginning to spread in distant places, a fading of the life song in parts of the world. It was not an immediate crisis, not a roaring threat, but a gentle, persistent imbalance that, left untended, could grow. The Whis needed listeners to help mend these threads, to carry its song of balance and renewal into the world. Lyra felt a surge of both humility and resolve. This wasn't a burden, but a profound privilege. She wasn't being asked to fight battles or wield power, but to listen, to nurture, to remember the ancient song and share its gentle truth. As the communication deepened, Lyra felt a subtle transformation within herself. It was as if a dormant part of her awoke. Her senses sharpened even further. She could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her bare feet, the intricate network of roots beneath the soil. She could discern the unique voices of individual trees, the deep rumble of an ancient oak, the airy whisper of a silver birch, the vibrant hum of a flowering hawthorn. A faint ethereal light began to emanate from her own hands, a soft golden glow that pulsed in harmony with the Whis. When she touched the ancient stones, they seemed to warm beneath her fingers, their surfaces shimmering with a transient inner luminescence. This was her gift, her connection made manifest, the ability to resonate with and subtly influence the living energies of the world, to be a conduit for the Whis's profound song of life. She spent what felt like hours, or perhaps mere moments, in this state of communion, completely absorbed by the Whis. It shared with her not just memories and knowledge, but a sense of profound peace, a deep, abiding love for all living things. She felt a part of something vast, timeless, and utterly beautiful. She was no longer just Lyra, the quiet woman from the cottage. She was Lyra, the listener, connected to the pulsing heart of the world. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the western sky in hues of orange and violet, Lyra felt the gentle release of the Whis's embrace. The shimmering column of light began to subtly recede, its song softening, though it never truly vanished from her heart. She knew it was time to leave, for now. She bowed her head to the ethereal presence, a profound sense of gratitude overflowing within her. "Thank you," she whispered, though she knew no words were truly needed. The Whis answered with a gentle pulse of light, a final, profound wave of peace. Walking out of the Whisperwood, Lyra felt different than she had after her first visit. Then she was filled with unshakable curiosity. Now, she carried a clearer sense of purpose. The world still seemed infused with magic, but now she understood why. The soft glow in her hands had faded, but she knew it was there, dormant, ready to reawaken. The Whis's song was not just a beautiful mystery, but a living part of her, a responsibility she embraced with quiet joy. The path home was illuminated by the rising moon, its silver light dappling through the leaves. Lyra knew her journey with the Whis was far from over. There was more to learn, more to understand, and perhaps one day, more to do regarding the subtle fraying of the world's tapestry. The Whisperwood had not just opened its heart to her, it had woven her into its very fabric, a listener, a guardian, a gentle song-carrier in a world that increasingly needed to remember its ancient melodies. She smiled, a profound sense of peace settling over her. Her true adventure, she realized, had only just begun. Her true adventure, she realized, had only just begun. The profound sense of peace that had settled over her was not one of stillness, but of vibrant, burgeoning potential. It pulsed within her, a quiet hum that echoed the ancient rhythms of the Whisperwood itself. She spent the next days, and then weeks, deepening her connection to the Whis. It was less of a companion now and more of an extension of her own senses, a shimmering, sentient thread woven into her perception. Through it, she could hear the sap rise in the ancient oaks, the slow crumble of granite into soil, the unseen paths of the wind as it combed through the highest canopy. She learned to discern the subtle emotional states of the creatures around her, not through their actions, but through the unique, delicate songs their spirits sang. The world, which had always been beautiful, now revealed itself as an intricate symphony, each leaf, each stone, each drop of dew, a distinct note in a grand, harmonious composition. Yet, even as she reveled in this newfound clarity, the understanding of the fraying of the world's tapestry began to take on a more urgent, tangible form. One crisp morning, as the sun dappled through the still dewy leaves, she felt it. The Whis, which usually pulsed with a gentle, steady rhythm, began to thrum with an anxious, discordant vibration. It was subtle at first, like a single violin string slightly out of tune in an otherwise perfect orchestra. She paused, her hand hovering over a moss-covered stone, her brow furrowed. The stone's usual slow, deep bass note was wavering, a faint, almost imperceptible dissonance creeping into its ancient song. She closed her eyes, extending her senses further through the Whis. The discord wasn't localized to the stone. It was a faint ripple, spreading outwards. She focused, tracing the tremor. It led her north towards a part of the Whisperwood she hadn't ventured into yet, a section known in the Whispers as the Sunken Roots, where the oldest trees were said to draw nourishment directly from the world's slumbering heart. The usual vibrant green of the forest seemed muted there, even from a distance. The air, typically thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming wood sorrel, carried a faint, almost metallic tang, like distant static. The birds, usually so boisterous, were noticeably quieter. A chill that had nothing to do with the morning air settled over her skin. "What is it, Whis?" she murmured, her voice barely a breath. The Whis responded with a tighter, more insistent vibration, guiding her forward. It was a wordless plea, a silent cry for understanding. She moved with a newfound purpose, her feet barely disturbing the fallen leaves. As she delved deeper into the sunken roots, the signs of the fraying became more pronounced. The leaves on some of the younger trees were edged with a faint, unnatural brown, not the rich russet of autumn, but a sickly, muted shade. The undergrowth, usually a riot of ferns and wild berries, was sparse in places, the soil beneath it looking dry and cracked despite the recent rains. Even the sunlight, filtering through the ancient canopy, seemed weaker, less golden, as if its warmth had been siphoned away. The songs of the forest here were muted, distorted. The powerful, grounding hum of the ancient trees was punctuated by jarring silences, like missing beats in a familiar melody. The chittering of squirrels sounded strained, the rustle of unseen creatures less joyful, more wary. She heard a faint, persistent hiss beneath the usual forest sounds, a sound like a quiet unraveling. Her heart ached. This wasn't just an abstract concept anymore. It was a tangible sorrow, a wound in the very soul of the wood. She pressed on, drawn by the Whis' increasingly urgent pulses. Finally, she arrived at a clearing, if one could call it that. It was less a clearing and more a deep hollow in the forest floor, surrounded by colossal, gnarled trees whose roots were so vast they rose like buttresses, forming natural archways and shadowed alcoves. In the center of this hollow was a pool, its surface usually a mirror reflecting the sky and the surrounding ancient growth. But today, the water was still and murky, covered in a thin, greenish film. No insects danced above its surface, no frogs croaked from its banks. It was utterly, profoundly silent. And that silence was the loudest sound of all. This was the source of the discord, the origin of the fraying she had sensed. The pool, once a vibrant nexus of life, now seemed to absorb all sound, all light, all vitality. She knelt at its edge, reaching out a trembling hand. The whis around her wrist pulsed with a feverish intensity, warning her, guiding her. As her fingers neared the stagnant water, she felt a profound emptiness, a cold void that sucked at her spirit. It wasn't menacing, not exactly, but devastating in its sheer lack of presence. The pool wasn't just silent, it was Kuhn singing. She pulled her hand back, a shiver running through her. This was beyond anything she had encountered. The fraying here was not a tear, but a gaping hole, a missing note in the world's grand symphony. She knew with a certainty that resonated deep within her bones that she couldn't mend this alone, not yet. She needed guidance, ancient wisdom, a deeper understanding of the very fabric of the world's song. Her gaze lifted to the surrounding giants. These were the old ones, the most ancient trees of the Whisperwood, said to remember the dawn of time. Their roots delved so deep they were rumored to touch the sleeping heart of the earth. If anyone knew about the world's tapestry, it would be them. "Whis," she whispered. "Who can help us understand this?" The whis, still vibrating with distress, seemed to shift its focus, drawing her attention to the largest of the surrounding trees. It was a colossal, moss-draped oak, its trunk wider than a small cottage, its branches reaching up like arms embracing the sky. Its bark was a tapestry of wrinkles and furrows, like an ancient, weathered face. From its deepest roots, a faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated, a sound so low and slow it was almost beyond hearing, yet it resonated in her very soul. This was the one. She approached the ancient oak, placing her hands reverently on its rough bark. She closed her eyes, letting her senses expand, reaching out through the whis to connect with the tree's immense presence. It was like plunging into a deep, slow river of time, a current of memories stretching back millennia. She felt the slow growth, the countless seasons, the silent witnessing of ages long past. And within that vast consciousness, she found a gentle, patient awareness, a presence that was both tree and something more. "Old root song," she murmured, giving voice to the name that formed in her mind, a name whispered by the wood itself. "I need your wisdom." A sigh, like the rustle of 1,000 leaves, seemed to pass through the ancient branches above her. It wasn't a spoken word, but a thought, a feeling, a resonance that settled directly into her mind. "You have come, little listener. The silence has grown too loud to ignore. One, it." She explained what she had found, the unsinging pool, the frayed edges of the sunken roots. She described the chilling emptiness, the profound lack of song that permeated the area. Old Root Song's response was slow, deliberate, each thought a deep resonance within her. "To world weave, child, is not merely a tapestry of light and shadow, but of sound and silence, of harmony and discord. Each living thing, each stone, each current of air, sings its own unique note, contributing to the grand symphony. When these notes are vibrant and true, the weave is strong, resilient. But when notes fade, when songs are forgotten, or when discord creeps in, the weave weakens. This is what you perceive as the fraying. It is not malicious, not an act of ill will, but a slow erosion, a quiet forgetting of the ancient melodies that bind all things together. He explained that the pool she had found was a resonance well, a place where the deepest, most foundational notes of the earth's song converged and resonated outwards. It was a vital anchor point for the harmony of the entire Whisperwood, and indeed, for a wider region beyond. When a resonance well falls silent, Old Root Song continued, it is as if a heart stops beating, leaving a void that threatens to consume the surrounding weave. The notes nearby begin to falter, lose their way, forget their own song. And now this particular well he resonated, tied to the memory of connection. It once sang of the unity between earth and sky, of the cyclical dance of life and decay, of the unspoken understanding between all beings. Its silence indicates a profound forgetting of these ancient bonds. But how can it be mended? She asked, her voice filled with a desperate hope. How can a lost song be remembered? It cannot be forced, Little listener, old root song replied. Hey, a song. Forgotten cannot simply be sung anew by rote. It must be reawakened from within. The core of this particular well song is a memory, a specific resonance of shared purpose and gentle communion. It has been lost, not stolen, but simply drifted away. Inundati, kadi, to mend it, you must find a lost note. Not a physical object, but a resonant echo of the well's true song. There is an ancient guardian of such echoes, a creature of the twilight, who dwells in the whispering caves beyond the sunken roots. They are called the glimmer-wisps, and they are keepers of stray melodies, forgotten lullabies, and the quiet hum of things long past. In thou ken. The flicker, old root song advised, his resonance growing fainter, as if the effort of communication was immense. Flicker is the youngest, yet perhaps the most perceptive of the glimmer-wisps. They are elusive, drawn to quiet beauty and forgotten paths. You will know them by their shimmering presence and their quiet, inquisitive hum. Nanyazi, Tao. He paused, then a final strong thought pulsed through her. But a journey will not be easy. The path to the whispering caves is fraught with subtle illusions and echoes of what once was. The silence from the resonance well extends its reach, making the way feel heavy and confusing. But your Whis, your true companion, will guide you. Listen to its pulse, for it carries the memory of all paths. Monaidi. Endin. She thanked old root song, a profound sense of gratitude filling her. The task was daunting, yet a clear purpose now illuminated her path. She had a destination, a guide to seek, and a deep understanding of the problem. With a determined breath, she turned, the Whis around her wrist now pulsing with a steady, encouraging rhythm. It was still anxious, but interwoven with a new resolve, a shared sense of mission. She looked back at the unsinging pool, its murky surface reflecting nothing. I will find your song, she vowed softly. The journey to the whispering caves began, Monsi in spite. The path out of the sunken roots felt heavier than her journey in. The muted colors and strained sounds seemed to press in on her, making each step a conscious effort. Yet, the Whis remained a beacon, its gentle vibrations guiding her, reminding her that hope still pulsed. As she moved away from the deep hollow, the forest began to recover some of its vibrancy, though the subtle dullness persisted, a shadow of the resonance well's silence. She entered a part of the whisperwood she had only heard tales of, a realm of ancient, twisted roots that form natural bridges over hidden ravines, and colossal, hollowed-out trees that served as temporary shelters for nocturnal creatures. The air grew cooler here, imbued with the damp scent of ancient stone and fern. Shafts of sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, creating an ethereal, twilight atmosphere even in the middle of the day. The ground underfoot changed from soft earth to a mixture of moss and smooth, water-worn pebbles, hinting at unseen streams below. She learned to trust the Whis implicitly. When it vibrated with a soft pulling sensation, she would turn left, even if the path seemed to vanish into a tangle of roots. When it slowed its rhythm, she would pause, sensing a subtle illusion ahead, a path that seemed solid but was merely a trick of light and shadow, leading to a dead end or a hidden drop. The fraying of the weave didn't just manifest as silence, it also created distortions, subtle misdirections that could easily lead a traveler astray. One afternoon, as the light grew particularly dim, she noticed something new. Small shimmering motes of light, like miniature fireflies, began to appear around her. They were not insects, but living light, each no bigger than her thumbnail, pulsing with a faint iridescent glow. They danced in the air, weaving intricate patterns, almost like tiny, silent musical notes made visible. Whis, she whispered. The Whis responded with a gentle, curious hum, drawing her attention to one particular mote, brighter and more active than the others. It hovered near her face, its light shifting through a rainbow of colors, emerald, sapphire, amethyst, before settling on a soft golden hue. It seemed to be observing her, its tiny pulses of light a form of silent inquiry. This must be Flicker. Whoa. Are you Flicker? She asked, her voice soft and inviting. The glimmer-wisp responded with a series of quick, bright flashes, then began to drift slowly forward, occasionally glancing back as if urging her to follow. It was a delicate ethereal dance, leading her deeper into the twilight realm of the whispering caves. The caves themselves were not dark, oppressive caverns. Instead, they were a labyrinth of vast, moss-covered chambers and narrow, winding passages, all carved by ancient water and wind. Luminescent fungi glowed softly from the walls, casting a gentle, otherworldly light. Crystal formations dripped with perpetual moisture, creating a constant, soft symphony of tinkling sounds. And everywhere, there were more glimmer wisps, tiny living lights drifting and dancing, their quiet hum adding to the gentle chorus of the caves. Flicker led her to a particularly large chamber, dominated by a vast, shimmering pool that reflected the glowing fungi like a scattered galaxy. The air here was cool and still, filled with a profound sense of ancient quiet. Flicker settled on a shelf of rock overlooking the pool, its light pulsing gently, inviting her to sit. She sat down, her legs aching from the long journey, and gazed at the shimmering pool. It was utterly still, yet she could sense a faint, almost imperceptible current beneath its surface. This was not an unsinging silence like the resonance well. This was a receptive silence, a silence that listened. Flicker began to emit a series of soft, musical hums, accompanied by intricate dances of light. It was communicating, telling a story not with words, but with pure resonance and visual poetry. She closed her eyes, letting the Whis translate the ethereal language. Flicker was telling her of the lost notes, the fragments of ancient songs that drifted away when the world's weave began to fray. Sometimes, these were memories, sometimes feelings, sometimes pure, unadulterated melodies. The glimmer wisps, being creatures of pure light and sound, were drawn to these lost fragments, nurturing them, keeping them safe in places like this, the echoing pools. Flicker's story continued, describing how the glimmer wisps would gather the lost notes, not to hoard them, but to preserve them until the right listener came along. They were guardians of forgotten truths, waiting for the moment when the world would need to remember. Then, Flicker focused its light, directing it towards the shimmering pool. It began to hum a new melody, incredibly soft, almost imperceptible at first, but slowly growing in clarity. It was a melody of deep connection, of gentle understanding, of the quiet strength found in unity. It was the very essence of the song that the resonance well had lost. As the melody swelled, a faint ripple spread across the surface of the echoing pool. From its depths, a single glowing orb of pure resonant light began to rise. It pulsed with a profound warmth, humming with the very song Flicker was singing. This was the lost note, the memory of connection made manifest. Flicker looked at her, its light pulsing with expectation. She reached out her hands, and the glowing orb drifted gently towards her, settling into her palms. It was warm, vibrant, humming with a deep, resonant peace. She felt its truth, its purpose, its long-lost melody resonate within her own spirit. This was the specific song the resonance well in the sunken roots had forgotten. The task ahead was now clear. She had to carry this lost note, this resonant memory, back to the unsinging pool. It wasn't just about placing it there. It was about reawakening the well's own memory, helping it to remember its own song. This required more than just carrying. It required listening and singing with her entire being. Flicker, still humming softly, danced around her, its light seeming to celebrate this small victory. The Whis too vibrated with renewed vigor, its earlier anxiety replaced by a quiet, determined strength. She knew the journey back would be just as challenging, perhaps even more so, for she now carried a precious, fragile piece of the world's harmony. She stood, holding the glowing orb, its warmth seeping into her very bones. Her adventure had indeed just begun, and with each step, each discovery, each whisper of ancient knowledge, she was becoming more deeply woven into the world's tapestry, a gentle song carrier with a growing understanding of the melodies that kept it whole. The silence of the resonance well still awaited, but now, she carried a fragment of its lost song, and the hope of its reawakening. The path ahead was long, but she was no longer alone, and the Whis whispered of courage and enduring harmony. The path ahead was long, but she was no longer alone, and the Whis whispered of courage and enduring harmony. The journey to the resonance well led Alara and her companions through lands both familiar and utterly new. They traversed the ancient, whispering woods, where trees wore cloaks of living moss and sunlight, dappled through leaves, like scattered jewels. Here, the Whis glided with easy grace, their forms like shimmering mist, their voices a constant, soft chorus of guidance and encouragement. They showed Alara how to discern the faint ley lines of song that still pulsed beneath the earth, remnants of a time when the world was openly vibrant with melody. By placing her palm on certain stones, Elara could feel the faint hum, like a distant memory, and she learned to trace these unseen paths, guiding them onward. Beyond the woods lay the whispering peaks, a range of mountains so tall their summits seemed to comb the clouds. The air grew thin and crisp, carrying the scent of pine and distant snow. Here, the Whis transformed, their forms condensing slightly, their movements more robust to navigate the swirling winds. They would gather Elara's cloak around her, their collective warmth a strange, comforting presence against the chill. In the higher passes, they pointed out the skylutes, crystalline formations that, when brushed by the wind, emitted pure, bell-like tones that echoed for miles. Elara found herself humming along, her voice blending with the natural music of the mountains, a tiny, growing orchestra against the vast silence of the world. Each time she added her voice, the fragment of song within her chest seemed to glow a little brighter, a tiny star gaining strength. Days blurred into weeks, marked by sunrise painting the peaks in fiery hues and sunsets bleeding indigo across the valleys. Elara learned to read the sky, to understand the nuanced language of the Whis, to trust her own intuition. She helped them cross rushing rivers by finding stones that pulsed with a steady rhythm, allowing them to step confidently, the current parting just enough for their passage. She shared the meager rations she carried, and in return, the Whis led her to patches of glowberries, tiny fruits that tasted of starlight and refreshed her spirit. One evening, as twilight deepened the shadows of a vast desolate plain, the Whis grew quiet, their forms shimmering with a somber light. "The well is near," one whispered, its voice like the rustle of dry leaves. The silence grows. Elara looked out at the darkening landscape. Before them, rising from the flat expanse, was a solitary, colossal structure. It was a tower, but not one built by hands. It seemed to have grown from the earth itself, a spiral of smooth, dark stone, reaching impossibly high into the bruised twilight sky. There were no windows, no doors, only the seamless ancient stone. At its base, nestled within a natural amphitheater of rock, was the resonance well. It wasn't a well in the common sense, not a hole filled with water. It was a vast circular basin, perhaps 100 feet across, crafted from the same dark, polished stone as the tower. Its surface was utterly still, reflecting the fading light like a sheet of obsidian. But it was the eye silence that struck Elara first. It wasn't merely an absence of sound, it was an active, oppressive presence, a heavy blanket that smothered all other noise. Even the wind, which had been a constant companion, seemed to falter and die as it approached the well. The Whis, usually so vibrant, now huddled closer to Elara, their light dimmed, their forms almost transparent with apprehension. "It is so silent," Elara breathed, her voice feeling tiny and lost in the vast quiet. "It has been so for ages beyond counting," another Whis murmured, its form a wavering blue. "Since the discord came, it tore the song from the well, leaving only this echo of absence." Elara felt a pang of sadness, a deep empathy for the silent monument. She placed a hand on the cool, smooth stone rim of the basin. No hum. No pulse. Just the profound, aching silence. This was the heart of the world, and its heart had stopped beating. "What is the discord?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The Whis shifted uneasily. "It is not a creature, Elara. It is a brokenness, a tearing apart of harmony. Long ago the world was a perfect song, each creature, each stone, each breeze a note in a grand symphony. But then some minds forgot the beauty of listening. They sought only to impose their own tunes, to shout over others. Their desires became sharp edges, their ambitions clashing notes. This disharmony grew." Elara looked at the dark, still surface. She felt the fragment of song within her stir, a faint, insistent thrum, like a seed yearning for sunlight. "How do we fix it?" "The well needs its full song," a Whis explained. "The fragments scattered across the world, those you have begun to gather, they are like keys. But the true reawakening must come from within, from a heart that understands harmony, a voice that can weave the fragments back into a whole." "My voice?" Elara asked, a tremor of doubt in her tone. She was just a girl. Her voice was small. "Your voice, yes," the Whis affirmed. "But more than that, your understanding, your empathy, your courage to sing into the greatest silence. They led her to a small hidden alcove at the base of the towering spiral. Inside, etched into the stone, was a symbol Elara now recognized, the swirling pattern of the resonance well's original song, a complex tapestry of lines and curves. It shimmered faintly in the gloom, a ghost of its former glory. "This is the memory stone," a Whis said, its light brightening slightly. "It holds the blueprint of the well's song, but it is dormant. To truly reawaken the well, you must not only sing the fragments you carry, but you must also remember the J-full song, piece it together, and project it with your entire being." Elara stared at the intricate symbol. It looked impossibly complex. How could she possibly remember something she had never heard? "It is not about remembering with your mind, little song carrier," a Whis said gently, as if reading her thoughts. "It is about remembering with your heart. The song of the world is within you, as it is within all living things. The well's silence has simply made it harder to hear." They spent the night huddled near the memory stone. Elara slept fitfully, dreaming of fractured melodies and overwhelming silence. In the morning, the silence of the well felt even heavier, a tangible weight on her chest. "You must enter the well," the Whis instructed. "Stand at its heart, and sing." Fear, cold and sharp, pricked at Elara. To step into that vast dark stillness, to offer her small voice against such an ancient, powerful void, it felt impossible. But then she remembered the whispering woods, the skylutes, the ley lines humming beneath her touch. She remembered the gentle guidance of the Whis, their unwavering belief in her. She remembered the fragment of song glowing in her chest, a constant, hopeful ember. Taking a deep breath, Elara walked towards the edge of the basin. The Whis formed a shimmering circle around her, their light a beacon against the encroaching gloom of the well's silence. As she stepped onto the dark, smooth surface, it felt strangely solid, like walking on polished ice. The air was utterly still, heavy and cold. She walked to the very center, a small, solitary figure in the heart of the world's stillness. She closed her eyes, trying to find the courage. The silence pressed in, 1,000 unspoken sorrows. She could feel the lingering echoes of the discord, a faint, jagged edge within the quiet, a memory of brokenness. It tried to tell her she was too small, too weak, that her voice would simply be swallowed. But then, she focused on the fragment of song within her. It was a simple melody, pure and clear, a single flowing note that pulsed with warmth. She hummed it softly, just a breath, barely audible. And then, she opened her mouth and sang. Her voice at first was hesitant, a thin thread of sound in the overwhelming silence. It was the melody she had learned from the ancient stones, the simple, foundational note of the world. It felt like dropping a tiny pebble into an endless ocean. But, as she sang, something shifted. The fragment within her chest pulsed brighter, radiating warmth. She wasn't just singing with her voice. She was singing with her whole being, with the memories of the journey, the wisdom of the Whis, the hope for the world. She remembered the feeling of the ley lines beneath her hands, the skylutes ringing in the wind, the gentle rustle of leaves in the ancient woods. She began to weave these memories, these sensations into her song. Her voice grew stronger, gaining confidence, adding layers. She sang of growth, of light, of the slow, steady rhythm of the earth. She sang of the joy of connection, the beauty of difference, the strength of unity. The Whis around the basin's edge began to glow, their lights intensifying, mirroring the strength of her song. They began to hum with her, a soft, ethereal chorus that resonated with her melody, amplifying it. Their collective energy flowed into the memory stone, and the etched symbol at the well's base began to pulse with a faint inner light. Elara felt the ancient symbol stirring, awakening. It began to feed her, not with notes she knew, but with feelings of harmony, with patterns of vibration, with the very essence of the world's original song. It was like a river of sound flowing into her, and she became its conduit. She no longer simply sang, she became the song. Her voice swelled, deep and rich, carrying notes she had never known she possessed. She sang of the soaring heights of mountains and the quiet depths of oceans. She sang of the first sunrise and the gentle cradle of moonlight. She sang of the tiny seed pushing through earth and the vast expanse of stars. As her song reached its crescendo, the dark, still surface of the resonance well began to shimmer. Tiny ripples, like heartbeats, spread from the center where Lara stood. The oppressive silence began to crack, a subtle shift in the air, like a heavy burden being lifted. Then a low, resonant hum began to emanate from the well itself. It was a deep, fundamental tone, the very base note of existence. It vibrated through Alara's feet, up her legs, filling her entire body with a warmth she had never known. The hum grew, a slow, majestic swell, joined by other higher notes, like ancient instruments tuning themselves. The dark surface of the well began to glow, not with reflected light, but with an inner radiance. Swirls of iridescent colors bloomed across its surface, like liquid rainbows. The sounds became more complex, more intricate, a tapestry of pure, perfect harmony. It was the sound of the world breathing again, of every living thing finding its place in a grand, unified chorus. Alara felt a profound connection, as if every fiber of her being was interwoven with the well's song. She was no longer just a song carrier. She was a song weaver, a bridge between the world's ancient heart and its renewed voice. The last vestiges of the discord's influence, the sharp, lingering edges in the air, dissolved like mist in sunlight, unable to withstand the overwhelming purity of the reawakened song. Finally, with a soft, glorious crescendo that echoed through the entire valley and beyond, the resonance well burst forth with its full, magnificent song. It wasn't just sound. It was light. It was color. It was life itself, radiating outwards in palpable waves of pure joy and harmony. The very air sang, the stones hummed, and the Whis around the basin flared into brilliant, joyful bursts of light, their forms swirling in ecstatic dance. Alara stood in the center, bathed in the radiant glory of the well, her voice now blending seamlessly with the grand symphony, a single pure note within a universe of sound. A feeling of utter peace, of profound rightness, settled over her. She had done it. She had helped the world remember its song. Slowly, gently, the intensity of the well's song settled into a steady, vibrant hum, a constant, beautiful presence that would now resonate throughout the world, strengthening the ley lines, nurturing life, and reminding all beings of the inherent harmony that bound them. Alara, feeling exhausted but utterly fulfilled, stepped out of the well. The Whis rushed to her, their forms shimmering with gratitude and adoration. They flowed around her, their soft voices a chorus of thanks and blessing. "You have done what was thought impossible, little song carrier," one whispered, its light soft and warm. "You have healed the heart of the world." Alara looked back at the well, now glowing with a gentle inner light, its surface alive with subtle shifting colors, its song a constant comforting presence in the air. The towering spiral above it seemed to pulse with a renewed energy, no longer a silent monument, but a conductor of the world's vibrant melody. She smiled, a deep, contented smile. She wasn't just Alara anymore. She was a part of the song, forever woven into its tapestry. Her adventure hadn't ended, it had simply transformed. Now, she understood her purpose. Not just to carry fragments, but to help others remember the full, beautiful song within themselves, to listen to the world, and to add their own unique melody to its eternal harmony. As the first rays of dawn touched the revitalized landscape, painting the sky with hues of hope and new beginnings, Alara knew she would eventually return home. But she would carry the song of the resonance well in her heart, a constant reminder of courage, connection, and the enduring magic of a world that was, once again, whole. And as she walked the Whis, their lights bright and joyful, danced around her, guiding her not just home, but towards a future filled with the beautiful, resonant music of life. The world was singing, and Alara, the gentle song carrier, was finally home, wherever the melody led her.